Yeah, because all summer long we were on a different schedule, right?
Yeah. Why am I hearing reverb?
Because the sound should be going through the system for you for some reason.
I don't know. I'm hearing myself.
I am not hearing anything.
I'm hearing reverb.
I did not touch anything on that.
No,
Desk.
I'm not saying you did.
Okay.
I'm just I hear reverb. 1, 2, 3, 4.
1,
1,
2.
2.
Hello.
Yeah. 1,
Hello.
2.
Hello.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I'm still hearing reverb.
Hold on now.
1, 2, 3. No, I don't hear it now.
Okay, that's because I'm guessing it's because the audio's plugged in. Usually I have it set so that headphones go into mine. For some reason it's going into yours.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I was getting the delay.
Yeah.
Okay. So how does it sound now? How's the overall
I
audio?
have no sound whatsoever for some reason.
Okay.
Like, I'm not hearing anything.
Is audio connected?
Like, audio is going through. I'm just not hearing anything. Testing.
Wait.
Nope.
Oh, wait. I just heard it just.
Yeah, that's me.
Oh.
I don't know what's going on here, but you know what? We'll just...
I hear you now
Well,
with that.
I mean, we have audio on the feed.
Yeah. There's
Okay.
audio on the feed, and I can hear you guys. So,
Okay. But he doesn't have audio.
like, I don't
On
hear
his
anything
headsets.
in the control room. I can just bring up the feed and listen to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we're also not streaming to YouTube.
Same problem.
Same problem came up again.
Okay.
The
So
RTP server.
so now.
The workaround that I'm using isn't working.
Okay. Are you done?
Yes.
Okay. We have full-time support through Wirecast. We're not going to do it today.
Yeah.
Okay? But I want you to do it. I mean, even if I have to come to Curry, make an appointment with you, sit down and do it, I want to do it.
Yes.
I mean, I'm paying for it. I want to take advantage of it. And I know there's a workaround.
We're also still live, by the way.
Oh, this is before Behind the Media?
Oh, that's right. So
jeez.
this is what happens before we begin our show. Where,
He's a sneak, isn't
yeah,
he? He's a little sneaky director.
So yeah, everybody hears our business out there. Anyway,
Hang on a second. Well,
Yeah.
let me ask you a question, since this is actually something I need to know.
yes.
Will you be able to feed it to the CLNS Media
Yes.
YouTube channel?
I'm also creating a recording so I can just upload it
Okay.
straight from here.
Good.
Okay, sounds good.
Let's do
Well, I think this has been a good behind
Before Behind the Media.
Before Behind the Media. You got a chance to get a sneak peek into
I
what
see-
we do
I
before
see
we get
some-
ready.
I'm
Oh, now Jimmy's going to start doing the adjustment game, which Jimmy often does. Jimmy the Adjuster. That's what I call you.
Thank you.
Jimmy the Adjuster.
There you go. It's a little closer picture of me. That's a little tighter.
That's what he's looking for. A tight shot of Jimmy.
Because I like
Jimmy,
seeing myself.
because Jimmy likes seeing himself, ladies and gentlemen.
It's
Okay.
not, that's
hit
not
it,
a surprise. to
hit
anybody.
it, Steve.
Brings 70 years of award-winning broadcast experience to the table. From newsrooms across the country, behind anchor desks and in the field, they've seen and covered it all. And now they are here to take you behind the media.
You're
They
going
have
to have
map-
to embrace technology. If you're an
Oh,
educator,
I'm embracing it.
I want you to use
You
the
can
phone
use it. No.
to help teach these
You
kids.
don't need to do that. I was covering the president in China, and we did a behind-the-scenes video. This is a gong, or
No,
she
not
put-
a gong, a bong with
bong.
a B.
That's right. I said
The
gong.
gong is a
That's
gong
right.
show.
I said gong.
Gong
Bong.
makes noise.
Bong. Why is it, Jimmy? Why?
Because sex sells, Dan.
True, but it's only part of the answer. It is. You have to be more creative now to be able to tell a story, and sometimes it's just a before and after picture and saying which one do you want to be. She was once talked about as the future of NBC News, but former Fox host Megyn Kelly is working her way out of a once match made in heaven.
Why is the new Law Enforcement Museum in Washington, D.C. controversial? It all starts with a movie.
Riddle me this. Why are Swedes inserting microchips under their skin?
Plus, bites behind the media, including Trump beating up on CNN again in a tweet at 3:15 in the morning, the Cannabis Wire, and homeless media.
Take off your jacket and turn up the heat. We want you to be comfortable as we unpack the latest headlines in Behind the Media. Hello, everybody. I'm Dan Lothian.
And I'm Jimmy Young.
We find the interesting in media so you don't have to go searching for it. Like us on Facebook, use the hashtag Behind the Media to engage with us on Twitter, and listen on iTunes and the CLNS Media Network. Today's episode is powered by Mack Welding Weldon. It's a premium men's essentials brand. For 20% off your first order, visit MacWeldon.com and enter promo code CLNS at checkout. We're also powered by Little Part Media, where ideas come to life, producing corporate videos and podcasts to tell your story. For more, check out littlepartmedia.com or contact info@littlepartmedia.com. So, she was the future of NBC News. She was the president of the future of Fox News. She jumps, and now she's pushed.
She leads the league in former network reporter.
Yes, she does. Megyn
Because
Kelly.
now it's Fox, it's going to be NBC, it's going to be... What's next?
I know. And she's,
Former Who?
Former Who. That's a band, isn't it?
Former Who?
Former Who.
The Who. Yes.
Former The Who.
That's right.
You know what really, this isn't the big shocking thing to me. She's had a series of shocking things that come out of her mouth. And I think if you followed her on Fox, she was always either dancing on the edge or going over the edge, depending on how you view it. And then one of them that we had passed around and heard quite a bit about was this whole controversy over whether Santa Claus was black or white.
Santa Claus doesn't exist.
Santa Claus doesn't exist.
It's a character.
Right.
Then it's in all of our minds.
But then
I'm
there was
hoping
one
I
about
just ruined
Jesus.
people's lives.
Was there one about Jesus as well?
Jesus is white too.
Yeah, exactly. No, I mean,
I think it was from one family of
one
humanity.
friend,
Though I'm going out on a limb here.
Yeah,
you know?
I think she talked about both, but certainly she always seems to talk about these race issues in a way that gets her into trouble.
Well, especially when she asks the question.
Right.
What is racist?
What is racist? Exactly.
And oops. I guess
oops.
I learned my lesson. Thinking before you speak.
Oh, why though, Jimmy? It's much more exciting when you just speak and then think later.
Well,
then it gets you into trouble.
You have known me for a while. I have had a history of this for a long time.
Mr.
Yeah,
Jimmy?
I have done it. I've definitely gotten better about it. I learned edit function over the last 18 years. Didn't
What
even
is it?
know what
Alt
it meant.
delete? Is it alt? No, alt edit.
Control Alt delete?
Is that what it is?
No, that's how you shut down.
Oh.
Okay, editing
So it's
is
Control,
actually
Alt, edit.
thinking before you speak, and then thinking about what you're going to say, and then
Yes.
perhaps not saying it in the same way as you might impulsively
Right.
blurt it out.
So things bounce around in your head.
Yes.
But by the time it gets to your mouth, it goes through various trap doors, and what comes out is supposed to be different than what stayed in.
Didn't know she was 47 and grew up in Albany, New York.
But now you do.
Now I do.
Now you also know that
Actually,
when she
I
was a
did
child, she
47.
didn't think blackface was that big of a deal.
And you know what? Unfortunately, that is a bad mark in our history.
Right.
And it was around for centuries.
Right.
And to bring it to use Halloween,
Mm-hmm.
which, by the way, has become, a huge holiday.
Yes.
And originally it was not meant to be like that.
No, it
I'm
isn't.
just saying.
But
right?
you
Devil's Night or something
yeah.
was the night before Halloween, right? And
Yeah, but you do get lots of candy.
yeah, well,
I like
guess
that.
you did.
And all the dentists love that because that means that people will have rotten teeth.
That's what happened. And I do have a sweet tooth, so I do enjoy it. But I will say, in my neighborhood anyway, if I get one or two kids coming by, we're at the dead end of a street that nobody even knows
Actually, it's you,
exists.
Jimmy. They know you live there.
That's right. That's right. Bah humbug, right? Don't come there.
No.
You'll get your little trick, you
That's
little
right.
kid.
It's the mean guy that lives down there.
That's right.
No, but hey, look, I think here's what happens with, and I'm not defending her, but there are a lot of things that back in the 60s and 70s and maybe early 80s.
1830s,
well, yeah,
according to
certainly
Al
back then.
Roker, and he's right, by the way.
But there are a lot of things that people grew up with and didn't understand. If you're a white person, you don't understand the deep context of what something like.
Correct.
To them, it's just, it's what you do at Halloween, and if you're doing character, it's okay. And they don't realize there's much more to that than just a Halloween, face mask.
Yes, and there's and I was actually talking to Rose, your producer, coworker, whatever, about this. In the 60s, I remember kids dressing up as Hitler.
Oh, wow.
And coming to the door. And I remember Mom and Dad going, this is not a good costume to be wearing.
Wow. Yeah.
And that's a bad one. That's one of those things you just try not to mention,
Right.
even though I just mentioned it, but I did it as an anecdote. And you don't see that anymore. You know,
No,
I remember
you
the
don't.
Richard Nixon mask was really a big
That was
one
a big
he was
one,
an
yeah.
ugly guy.
And then there were the presidential masks because there was, I guess there was this group of people who were going around, these bandits. They were robbing banks. Remember that?
Oh,
a
yes.
movie, I think,
there
was
a
made
movie
out
about
of right.
that, right? With Ben
So,
Affleck. in
Yeah,
it.
I think it was real, or maybe it's just a movie. No,
Oh,
I
yeah,
think
it was a
I
true
think it was
story.
based on a true story.
No, it was a true story.
Right,
Here,
right, right.
and by the way, in the Boston area.
That's right. Yes,
Okay?
exactly.
The townie.
So
We were talking about the town.
Right, exactly. That's it. Thank you for my pop culture connection.
And
there.
by the way, if
Yes.
you're relying on me for pop culture, you're in a lot of trouble. Okay.
Okay, so here exactly is what she said. So again, they're having this discussion about Halloween, and there was a controversy over someone dressing up as Diana Ross, I guess, in the past, and so she brought that up. And her quote was, "What is racist?" She asked in her conversation with her
A
panelists.
rhetorical question.
Exactly. Rhetorical, for those of you who don't know, which is something you put out there, not necessarily expecting an answer, but giving you a setup for what you want to say next.
A talk topic.
Exactly.
That's what we call it
Who
in the
knows? I
biz.
thought someone may not understand what rhetorical
No, I
means,
appreciate
right?
that.
So then she goes on to say, truly, you do get in trouble if you are a white person who puts on blackface for Halloween, or a black person who put on whiteface for Halloween. Don't quite get that. But when I was a kid, it was okay as long as you were dressing up as like a character.
Well, she was
So-
growing up. Let's put this in perspective.
Yes.
She's
Where she grew up?
47.
Yes.
Okay, so let's do the math. Wait, I'll ask if I don't have. I do have a pen. I can do the math.
Yeah, do the math. But
I can
she's
do the
younger
math.
than us, so she should
Yes.
not still be doing that. You know,
So
she was
grew
growing up in the
late-
90s.
in the early 70s.
What? No.
No, wait.
No,
47.
No, if she's 47, it was
Hang
not
on.
the late 70s.
Hang on, guys. I'm going to do the math.
Jimmy, I'm
okay?
almost 55,
Yes.
and so I was. This is the kind of stuff that was happening when I was in the 70s. It was no longer maybe in the 80s, but beyond that, it was not happening. So she was much younger. Who knows?
1971.
Right.
So she grew up in the early 70s.
What do you mean? She was born in 1971.
Right.
Right.
So
but she
between
doesn't-
1971 and 1981, she was between 0 and 10.
Right, but
That's when she was
okay,
growing
so
up.
when she was sorry.
Correct.
So
I'm trying
I was
to
just
find out the influence in the family.
Okay, okay.
And the time. I'm trying to put that in
I
perspective.
see. I didn't know what you were getting at.
The
there.
70s was still embroiled in a lot of controversy.
Right, but I'm thinking she didn't go trick or treating when she was like 0 to 1.
And did
or
she-
maybe she was. Her parents probably took her around as
Not 0 to
blackface.
1. Right. That's my point. Did she? Who did her makeup? I
That's
guess.
right. Maybe it's her parents to blame for this then.
Well, and by the way, parents, I'm afraid to say this. We all know how difficult a job it is. I always say
It
it's
is.
the
The
toughest
most-
job,
it
the most
is.
difficult job of anybody because there's literally no training. Here's your baby.
right.
Oh my
What do you
God.
do with it?
That's
it will
a lot.
break.
Nobody's ever even
And
told
it
me.
leaks just
And
like
it
the
leaks.
bottle.
That's right. It's leaking like my bottle. It's like, it's
Quick, put the diaper on the bottle.
For those of you who are just listening, yes, we had a bottle that leaked.
Jimmy held up a bottle
held up a bottle
to
and saying,
symbolize the baby.
the baby being
And the
handed
b-
to you
and
as
the
a
bottle
parent.
leaked.
And what a shock. It peed up in the air just like a baby would. Anyway.
That's pretty funny.
So from
You can't make that
1971
stuff up.
to
Yeah.
1981,
Right.
that was the era. And I got to tell you, that was busing in Boston.
Right. Yeah.
That was the era, we got rid of the Vietnam War. We got rid of a president. Hard to believe.
A lot happened.
A lot happened
lot
in
happened
that
in the
time.
70s,
and
yeah.
I was in college.
And I was in Puerto Rico at the time,
Yes.
speaking Spanish.
Right.
Who would have thunk it?
No, and by the way, for someone who grew up in Puerto Rico,
Right.
you have no accent
I
at
know.
all.
I
It's
know.
pretty
pero
impressive.
Yo puedo ver en puertorriqueño ahora, so I can switch back and forth. And I feel pretty good about the Red Sox now. Man, we're digressing.
Yes.
But
What a
the
shock.
Red Sox manager.
What a shock. I'm in
to
studio.
borrow a little bit from you.
The ADHD world, right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The new manager who's doing so great,
Alex
Cora, comes from a place not far from where I grew up in Puerto Rico.
Oh, that's very nice. And did
Yes.
you know?
No, yes.
Since you brought up sports, and
Yes.
you know I can't resist because I
Yes.
did get to go to game 2.
Yes.
This is the first World Series between two minority managers.
I did not know that. Wow. Times are a-changing, but according to this story, times are not a-changing.
Well, how much have they changed?
And how much, right. Things
But
have changed.
She will lose her job because of this.
She is apparently out now,
Yep.
and by the time you hear this, you will know for a fact that she's out.
Right.
But anyway, she did apologize in an internal email to colleagues and
And also
externally
on
as
camera.
well.
I watched
Right,
the
she
on-camera
did
apology. She was
apologize.
practically in tears. Look, and people could say, "Oh, she did a great job of acting." You know what? The audience that was in the studio for that apology was a very diverse audience,
Right,
and everybody stood up. And this is you you can't make a mistake anymore. You can't misspeak anymore. And there's certain subjects you definitely cannot misspeak about.
You know what? You need to just stay away from certain subjects.
Correct.
That's it. If you think that, especially when you're going live, you and I, we know how dangerous live TV or live radio
There's no
can be.
mulligans in live television.
There is not the safety net. When you fall, you go splat.
Right.
And
so
she splatted. She went splat. Exactly. So anyway,
was that a white splat or a black splat or a red splat or a green splat?
Well, it depends what kind of splat was painted.
It depends on how far you drop her, I guess.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I think, internally there were correspondents, even Al Roker, they were coming down on her. What I find fascinating as we wrap up this podcast, it was fascinating how this all started. Remember, she got her job at NBC because she pushed aside Tamron Hall. It was quite controversial. An African-American woman, one of the most highest profile African-Americans on television at the time. And it was controversial because she had the show that hour she had along with Al Roker. They had great ratings. They got pushed aside. Tamron Hall, who, by the way, after ended up leaving because she felt it was a demotion for her to get some other assignment, was about to sign, I guess, with the Weinstein Company for Weinstein TV, where she was going to do a talk show. And we all know what happened there, sort of. And so she's been, I think, on pause. And when we were researching for this segment, there were a lot of social media comments in support of her saying, in essence, justice for how you were treated. Now look what's happening to the person who kind of pushed you aside. So it's kind of weird what goes around
comes around. That's why that's a cliche, and that's why it fits in so many different cases, and it certainly fits here. But I do not think this is the end of Megyn Kelly's career. I do think she will have a serious cut in pay, however.
Or maybe not.
She will probably not be on network television.
She'll have to take a little time out.
Right.
But she'll come back. She's a talented person, a personality.
Has anybody heard from Matt Lauer lately?
Any idea? The last I heard that he was trying to keep people off his land in Australia.
Right.
Yeah.
That's about as far away as you can get.
But it's a faraway rich guy.
Yeah, it is. And she will not be
She'll
poor.
be a faraway rich woman.
She will not be far away.
$67 million. There's probably something built into her clause that says, actually, I don't know. If you say something, maybe it's guaranteed. I don't know how her contract was, but it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. So she'll be okay.
I hope she'll learn a lesson.
Or not.
And other anchors and talk show hosts in the past, be very careful about what you say, how you say it, and where that thought originates.
Exactly. Unfortunately, this Halloween, she's not getting a treat.
Trick or treat.
It's
a trick.
It's a trick. If you like this episode, let us know. Like us on Facebook. Use the hashtag #BehindTheMedia to engage with us on Twitter. If you have any questions or comments, reach out to us at info@littlepartmedia.com. That's info@littlepartmedia.com. Why is the new law enforcement museum in Washington, D.C. controversial? Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Behind the Media. I'm Dan Lothian.
And I'm Jimmy Young.
We find the interesting in media so you don't have to go searching for it. Like us on Facebook, use the hashtag #BehindTheMedia to engage with us on Twitter, and listen on iTunes and the CLNS Media Network. Today's episode is powered by Mack Weldon. It's a premium men's essentials brand that Jimmy often wears. For 20% off your first order, as he gave me the thumbs up, visit MackWeldon.com and enter promo code CLNS at checkout. We're also powered by Little Part Media, where ideas come to life, producing corporate videos and podcasts to tell your story. For more, check out littlepartmedia.com or contact info@littlepartmedia.com. So as you arrive to this museum, there's
$103 million privately financed museum.
Yes.
And one of the companies that is
Motorola, I believe.
And the other one is Glock.
Now,
Glock
is a gun.
That's what I thought.
Yes.
I just wanted to. I was kind of going there.
Yes.
I was hoping you would help me out with that.
But Glocks, law enforcement officers have guns.
Unless you're in England.
Unless then you have a baton.
Right.
The Bobbies.
And they have fewer murders in England with guns.
Right?
I just want to say.
Right. But this is less a debate about guns in America.
Correct.
And more about this law enforcement museum. First of all, when you enter into the museum, there's a movie, which brings in the media component to this, which apparently, I have not seen the movie, but based on those who have and descriptions of it, it gives a very wonderful picture about all the wonderful things that law enforcement officers are doing around the across the country.
Yeah.
Now, there's nothing wrong with that.
No, as long as there's an exhibit somewhere that says these guys are human too and have to make split-second decisions based on their own prejudices, let's just say.
Yes.
And now media, those body cams, that
capture it all.
have exposed it all.
Exactly.
Right.
And by the way, before
It's
we
not
go
a
down
balance-
that road,
when you talk about this, when I read about this, I'm
Yes.
like, this is not a balanced exhibit.
Right.
It's brand new.
right, and not that a museum has to be balanced, but on an issue like this,
They will
critics are
get-
saying
they will get some balance in there. I'm just saying. I think that take a few $100,000 out of that 103 million
right,
and
do some balance.
and get some balance, please.
Well, and apparently you talked about body cams. There is another video that apparently does sort of the day in the life of a cop. Following
Right.
a cop around, you get to see how the cop does all kinds of wonderful
cats
things.
out of trees.
Yes, exactly.
Helping old ladies across the street.
Exactly, giving you stopping you and you think it's a speeding ticket, and instead it's, hey, happy holidays kind of thing. We're good people. I don't know. I'm making that part up. Actually, that does happen, but I'm not saying it's part of the museum. Anyway, what is lacking, and you set this up quite nicely, Jimmy, is the fact that there isn't the stuff that have been part of the debate over the last couple of years of the way that certain communities in America view law enforcement and the interaction between law enforcement and inner city communities. That part has essentially, as to borrow a phrase from Van Jones, they have whitewashed it from the exhibit.
Yes.
And with I guess there's a segment on Ferguson, and that's the only one that sort of mentions some of the conflicts, if you will, between law enforcement and the public.
But the only reason why there's a exhibit, according to this article of Ferguson, was to show the power of the body camera.
Exactly.
And this is what bothers me the most about this as I read through this and I look at the curators of the museum. They didn't even have, he says, Brandt. Now, Brandt is the, David Brandt.
Is he there was someone they included. I'm not.
We haven't
right.
He's definitely one of the curators
Right.
in that museum, and he says we planned educational programming and discussions on subjects like Ferguson's impact on policing. Well, they've planned it,
Right.
but they opened the museum without
Right.
implementing the plan or having a plan in place.
Well, there were conversations apparently with African American groups prior to that, and they encouraged that these kinds of things should have been part of the exhibit. It's my understanding, at least according to a story that I heard on the radio, and they decided that they didn't want this museum to become to automatically make people either like it or dislike it based on whether presenting Black Lives Matter or some other issue, one of these hot button issues of law enforcement and force and inner city communities.
Well, I hope that they'll use this initial reaction to the opening of the museum to learn a lesson and perhaps create open conversations on a regular basis through the community. Lord knows it's in Washington, D.C. Right. There is a serious downtown D.C.
Yes.
Area down there.
Yes, there is.
That is being policed on a regular basis.
Yes.
I would think that they would try to create some kind of a program that engages the inner city with the law enforcement through the museum.
And my sense is that they will. And again, they
just didn't.
They didn't.
They didn't plan $103 million, and no one figured that this might be a good idea.
Right, and I'm surprised that with big company money behind it, that you would have thought that they would have insisted on more balance in something like this, because you have to expect there'll be some blowback.
Absolutely.
Look, I'm all for painting a rosy picture with movies and other kinds of video of law enforcement, because there is this thinking that all law enforcement, among some in this country, that all law enforcement is bad, that all law enforcement is out to get,
and that's a stereotype and a prejudice that is built in as well.
Exactly, and there are great examples of where that is the case.
Absolutely.
But you can't say that every law enforcement officer is a certain way. And I'll tell you what, I remember years ago when I was in West Palm Beach, I did it was a series called Fit for SWAT, where I went along in a police department as certain officers were looking to become SWAT agents, or the SWAT team they wanted to join. So I went along to see if I too could make it. And So I spent, I think, 4 days with them, and some of the kind of abuse that they take when you're out there on the street, with people spitting at you or calling you pig or whatever.
Sounds like being a journalist.
Nowadays it is.
Nowadays it
Top
is.
Journalist, same thing. Right?
Easy targets.
Exactly.
Easy targets.
And so it made me appreciate the kind of intense pressure that law enforcement officers operate under. So there is no question that it's a two-way street here, that people in the community often throw rocks at them and mistreat them, right? Correct. Second thing, though, is they are trained to respond to those things in a different way than the average person would be.
The SWAT people or the regular
law
enforcement?
Law enforcement in
okay.
general
Yep.
is trained not to react in a certain way. And that's where the problem occurs. The human element of an officer ends up getting them in trouble oftentimes. And people go, well, they're human. Yeah, but they're police officers. So they need to know how to ratchet it down, roll it back a little bit, turn down the temperature rather than responding the way that we would respond if someone started spitting at us. Let's talk about this for a second, because I am intrigued by this, because as a law enforcement officer upholding the laws, when you see something that is a threat to public safety, right,
you are obligated to get involved.
Right.
And that immediately goes to a confrontation. In other words, they are trained to deal with confrontations.
De-escalate, though, is what they're trained to do, and to escalate if need be, right? You have to pull the gun out and use it if you have to pull the gun out and use it.
But in an extreme circumstance.
Right.
And we have seen time and time again that the human element, the weaknesses,
that's what gets into
it all, because these guys are still humans. And I do think that they have a very difficult job. And I always try to respect law enforcement.
And I
even
do as well.
more now, because there are times when you need one.
Well, that's the thing. When you're in trouble, who are you going to call?
It's
not Ghostbusters.
That's
it's the cops.
No.
And so it's important that they are highlighted around some of the positive things that they do. If somebody wanted to start a documentary, do a TV show about, and there are some shows like that, cops doing good in the community, I think that's great. And I think the video or the documentary or the movie that they play when you first go to the museum, I think that's good, that they're showing you the positive side of law enforcement.
Well, I think it's about graduating from the police academy.
It's all the good stuff.
Training.
It's all the good stuff about. It's all positive.
How a police officer becomes a police
officer.
Okay.
And I think that is all great. But if you have a museum, you can't turn a blind eye when something. Now, I could see if this was prior to the Black Lives Matter movement or other more public movements where things were kind of a little bit quieter than they are right now. Mm-hmm. I could almost see you thinking, well, people aren't interested in hearing about that right now. It's not part of the national conversation, but it is. And to ignore it, I think, is wrong.
And I agree on that too. Let's talk about the Newseum.
Yes.
Which I've been to in Washington, D.C.
So have I, multiple times. Yes.
Where was the exhibit about the horrible things that media people have done? So isn't that a place to be balanced too?
Jimmy, taking the other side. I like this.
Well, no, it makes sense to me. And so, by the way, when I walked out of there, I was like, okay, that was nice. It was all about the wonderful things that the news world has done.
Right.
But they really dropped the ball on one thing. I mean, there's been a lot. I don't think.
Actually, you're right, and I have not been there in the last few years, but it would make sense to have. You're right. If someone's criticizing us for criticizing cops, and the kinds of, not criticizing cops, but the museum and the way that they cover it, they have a valid point. I think unless there's a new exhibit, there should be someplace in the museum that highlights Matt Lauer's fall from grace. Or over at CBS,
Andrew Lack,
Andy Lack's still there.
Andy Lack is
still there. Yeah, as far as I know, unless he's no longer there today. And then there's there are a whole host of people, or even within smaller, less known people who have stepped away. Over at 60 Minutes,
Brian Williams.
Producer, there's Brian
Williams should
all
be
of that stuff, and then forget just the TV stuff. But what about the newspaper reporters who have plagiarized? And those, you're right. And it perhaps, I'm trying to remember.
I think
I'm
what
thinking
we're talking
right
about
now
is balance.
Right. But you can't, if you're trying to show a history of an organization, of a group, then the entire history is appropriate to show.
Correct.
And I'm glad you raised that. that if, in fact, there isn't, unless they started a new section to the museum that I'm not aware of, or I missed that because I didn't want to see the ugly stuff, it is important that if we're going to point the fingers at these this other museum of law enforcement,
I'm trying to balance.
We need, as they always say, when you're pointing the finger at someone, 3 more fingers are pointing back at you.
That's I like that.
You never heard that one?
No.
Yeah. Anytime
Besides,
you
my
point,
finger doesn't point straight anyway.
Well, it doesn't matter. But the 3 coming back are straight.
Yes.
And
well, we can debate that too.
Well, but anyway, it's something to you have to make sure that that your house is clean too before you start looking outward.
Right.
Okay.
Very cool.
If you like this episode and agree or disagree with us, let us know. Like us on Facebook. Use the hashtag #BehindTheMedia to engage with us on Twitter. Also, for your questions or comments, you can reach out to us at info@littlepartmedia.com. That's info@littlepartmedia.com. Okay, it's halftime, and you know what happens at halftime. We have a discussion about Jimmy's undergarments.
It's like, what the hell is that? Okay, because I wear Mack Weldons. Okay,
right.
Thank you.
If you're just tuning in to our podcast for the very first time, it's a shtick that we have going here, but it's a real shtick, so therefore it's not a shtick.
It's based on truth.
It's based on truth.
And customer experience.
Jimmy is our Exhibit A for customer experience with Mack Weldon. And it's his undergarments that he has expressed that in the warm weather, it's breathable, and in the cool weather, it's warm and comforting.
Yes. I wore it to the World Series game the other night.
Oh, and it was quite chilly out there.
I didn't feel, I was never cold.
Wow. That's a good advertisement. Yes. Wear Mack Weldons, you'll never be cold.
And sit in the reserve grandstand where you're like on top of everybody.
With a heater.
You're packed in there, right? Exactly.
So what are we talking about? Well, it's a premium men's essentials brand. Whatever you're wearing right now, Mack Weldon is much better. Mack Weldon believes in smart designs, premium fabrics, and simple shopping. It's the winning formula. Mack Weldon will be the most comfortable underwear, socks, shirts, undershirts, hoodies, and sweatpants you've ever placed on your body. So get on board with the people who know. For 20% off your first order, visit MackWeldon.com and enter promo code CLNS at checkout. This show is also powered by Little Part Media, where we don't talk about our underclothing, where ideas come to life, producing corporate videos and podcasts to tell your story. For more, check out littlepartmedia.com or contact info@littlepartmedia.com.
Sorry.
Riddle me this. Why are Swedes inserting microchips under their skin? How's that for a tease? Welcome to this episode of Behind the Media. I'm Dan Lothian.
And I'm Jimmy Young.
We find the interesting in media so you don't have to go crawling under your bed for it. Like us on Facebook. Use the hashtag Behind the Media to engage with us on Twitter. And listen on iTunes and the CLNS Media Network. Today's episode is powered by Mack Weldon. It's a premium men's essentials brand. For 20% off your first order, visit MackWeldon.com and enter promo code CLNS at checkout. We're also powered by Little Part Media, where ideas come to life, producing corporate videos and podcasts to tell your story. For more, check out littlepartmedia.com or contact info@littlepartmedia.com. So I don't know about you, Jimmy, but this story scares me a little bit. I know I have a dog, by the way.
Yes.
And I'm not a dog person, but I've become one now.
Okay.
And I've always known that dogs you can put chips in dogs, and we're not talking about potato chips,
right?
But you can put something microchips in their skin,
about the size of a grain of rice.
Right. You can put that in your dog, so that if your dog runs away somewhere, you can find your dog.
It's a tracking device.
It's a tracking device. It's an information device.
Right.
It has information on there. It says that mom and dad, Dan and Cindy, are looking for a little puppy.
Right. But that's not why Swedes are putting this into their skin.
They're not. It's not because they're pets.
No.
They're doing it to themselves. I don't know. I don't know what I think about this.
Okay, now, well, before we throw the Swedes under the bus and we hear from,
under the Volvo,
Ulf and all those people from Sweden, my friends from
throw them under the Volvo.
Under the Volvo, right?
Well, Volvo bus or truck.
There's a Wisconsin company in 2017 that did the exact same thing with a very similar technology to ease your life. Because as you know, Dan, we've advanced so much with technology now that the technology has its own intelligence. We've talked about that.
Brain hacking.
Brain hacking. This is body hacking.
Body hacking.
This is body. They talk about body hacking.
There are body hacking.
And I am concerned about exactly if you put this into your body.
What does it do?
What exactly is it measuring?
Yes.
And how is it going to improve my life? Now, everyone who knows technology knows there's something called Apple Pay.
Yes.
You can swipe now at the gas pump, and that's been going on for a long time.
Exactly.
It ties into your credit card or to your debit card, and it creates the transaction
It's
for you.
convenience.
Right, and
Right.
we've always had this.
Right.
So they put
Well, I
this
haven't,
chip.
but yes.
So they're putting this chip in to take. You don't need the device anymore.
You don't.
You just swipe your hand, or you just
Ugh.
wave your hand, and it opens doors.
Ah.
And
It's a little scary. What happens when you go through the metal detector at the airport?
I don't think it detects.
You don't think it detects
No.
chips?
First of all,
Well,
it's
all of
the
a sudden-
size of a grain of rice. Let's go
but
back to that.
It doesn't matter about that, though, Jimmy. It has a
Even
lot of
C4,
stuff on it.
even C4, the size of a grain of are you going to tell? Really?
Of
The most
course.
explosive stuff
Jimmy,
we have out there?
There's going to be a lot of stuff. The reason they're putting it in there is that they can jam it full of information. So it can.
Is it
packs-
metal or is it what? Do you
I
have?
don't know. I don't
That's
know
one
about-
of the things
I
that
don't
I
know
don't
what
know
it-
because I walk through those metal detectors all the time with a titanium and ceramic hip.
And what happens?
Doesn't go off.
Oh, it doesn't?
No,
Oh.
no. Now when I had a metal replacement,
Right.
it went off all the time.
Well, mine goes off just all the time.
Then the
anyway.
metal got into my blood, and that was pretty much the end of the metal replacement. We got to the titanium and ceramic world, but
Mine is I'm always wearing a belt buckle. I know if it's the big belt buckle.
are you TSA
okay.
approved?
I used to be.
Yeah.
I don't travel as much as I
Oh,
used to.
okay,
Oh,
all right.
before they just kind of waved me through. Although I will say one time I went through in Washington, D.C. at Ronald Reagan International
Been there many
Airport.
times.
I went through there and I got the pat down search.
Oh, I have
that
too.
After I was done, I thought, it was time for me to smoke a cigarette. That's how intimate it was.
I'm going
No,
to
for
put
the record, I don't smoke, but-
two fingers
Oh, yes.
inside your pants.
He put his fingers
and
everywhere.
around the-
Yes, he was everywhere, and I protested. Yes,
Yeah,
he
I
was
mean-
looking for the chip, I think, is what he was
Yeah.
doing. So anyway, these chips are designed to speed up users' daily routines, according to this article that, by the way, was brought to our attention by our director, Steve Helmuth. Thank you, Steve.
Because I think he's already signed up for this.
Right. Do you
He
happen to
wants
have
it.
one? Is that why you brought this to our attention? You were thinking of getting one, and you have one?
No, I looked at it and I was like, oh my god, this is no.
So you're
By the
not-
way,
I'm
yeah.
not putting any machines into my body. I don't care what it does.
Stay away
No.
from it. I agree. No, I'm
$180, by the way.
$180 for this now.
So many Swedes are lining up to get
Right,
this
the chip
microchip
company's having trouble
that
keeping
They
up.
can't keep up with the production.
I
Because now Swedish, I didn't know this
Right.
about the country. They are early adapters
of technology.
of technology.
Yeah. So this one there, and I think some people have raised concerns about privacy issues. So what kind of personal health data might be stored on these devices? Is there stuff that someone? What about the hackers out there who are going to go around with a little reader, right? And they'll walk by me and say, Dan just got a test and he has this problem. He's we know about him. Let's put the information out there. You just never know. If the information is in your body on a chip, that means somebody has a way of reading the chip.
Right.
And not everybody with the reader is on the up and up.
Well, you assume that.
Well, I know that because there are evil people in this world.
Right. I get that too. But, the information is encrypted,
Yes, a lot of things are encrypted, but there
And
are
they
people
still
who
have
spend
access to
there
it.
are people who spend their time decryptonizing.
Speaking of which, do
That's
you
not-
remember?
there's no such word as
do you remember
decryptonizing.
in the early days of cable television, okay,
Right.
that they used to encrypt the signals to
Oh.
the station to the channels that you didn't?
No, they never
subscribe
used
to.
to. It was not encrypted. It used to be open
Oh,
in
wait
the
a minute.
early days.
Now you're going
The-
to the really early
Right,
days.
the really early days.
Okay, I'm
You
going-
could watch HBO if you had a dish. You could just
Right, dish-
sweep around and get everything.
Right, and that's how the dish industry actually started.
Yes,
I'm
I
pretty
used
sure.
to watch all
Right.
those movies for free when I was working at a radio station.
But remember how it used to have the garble?
Yes,
thing,
garble,
and then,
yes.
like every 30 seconds, it would click in.
It was enough to make you watch a little
That's
bit
right.
of it. Right,
That's
exactly.
right.
And then it eventually
Then
would
we'd go
out
back
again.
to being
right.
scrambled
And then
again.
you have to go and order it up if you wanted to because you were
Right.
missing this great programming.
It's true. It was a few second tease.
Exactly.
But these chips, back to the chips,
Yes.
some of the people who swear by them, they love it because when they're at networking events, all they have to do is swipe
Oh,
their
my
hand
goodness.
and people will pick up their information. And,
Right.
it's like having a business card embedded into your skin.
People are going to start flirting with each other. Here, let me rub against you so we can exchange info.
Ooh.
That's that's going to happen.
Or you walk. I'm going out on a limb.
There's a lot more
Sweden,
sexual harassment.
It's been happening for a long time in Sweden. I'm going.
Well, I think that's those people who were on the cutting edge were talking about this a long time as a pickup line, and here we thought it was only a pickup line, but it's real.
Exactly. Right.
My problem about this though, it almost feels now a lot of people are going to be getting under your skin.
Whoa. We don't have one of those drums, right? Where it goes ba-dum boom, do we? We don't have sound effects. Maybe we should get some of that.
See what you created, Stephen?
That's
actually,
it was actually a pretty clever line. You're a very clever writer.
Oh, thank you.
You know, because you get all these writing awards in your office
and
all this.
Think
you really
that way.
You do. No,
that's
you
are
how
very I think.
Right. You are a creative writer.
Well,
all your teases and the headlines and stuff. It's very creative.
Thank you for noticing.
No.
Thank you.
Are you kidding me? I'm in awe. You know, Dan, I'm in awe of your journalistic skill.
No, you're not in awe. Okay. You're wearing Mack Weldons, not in awe. You're wearing Mack Weldons. That's why. Okay. But you were going to say something, and I think I made you lose your train of thought.
And I totally lost my train of
thought.
I was going to say something about Sweden.
Yeah.
That some technical, a lot of these companies that have been around that we kind of take for granted started in Sweden. Like Skype. And Spotify.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, interesting.
They have Swedish roots.
Wow. Yeah. Because
just saying.
It's
and I've never been. Have you been to Sweden?
I have. No.
Yeah.
It is not on my list. Although, as you know, how many countries have I been to?
I don't know. I didn't take notes.
Are you serious?
No, I'm serious.
I thought I've talked about it before on the podcast. No. 51 countries.
Wow.
51. Yes.
Wow.
But Sweden is not one of them. I came close to going to Sweden one time. I've not even been to Switzerland.
Think about this.
51.
2. Does it count if it's a?
No, you have to be on the ground for more than 6 hours.
So it's not like I stopped at Orly Airport in Paris and peed.
That
doesn't count.
Not unless you you walked around, like you landed and then you went through security and walked around and then walked back through. That has to count. Yes.
So I have to think back.
Now mine are more than that, but back before I traveled as much as I did, I counted some of those but no, I've been in those countries, not just passing through the airport. Stephen, how many countries have you been to?
I think I've only been to like 8.
8 countries.
Yeah.
Steven's counting over there. He's up to 3 right now.
Because you have the British.
4 countries. Okay.
So you have the British Virgin Islands.
Yes.
That's a different country.
That's a different passport. That is a different country. Yes. So that counts.
Dominican's another country.
Dominican Republic.
Okay, that's another one.
Not Dominica, right?
No. Dominican Republic, Punta Cana, and all that.
That counts. Yes. Yeah. Have you been to Jamaica?
About 8. Yes. Oh, 9.
Jamaica.
9.
Man, if we played this little exercise, you might even get 10. Who knows?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. Where is the most bizarre place that I've been? What is not bizarre? I don't mean bizarre, but what unique place that I've been? Where very few people from the outside have been.
Okay, tell me. Antarctica.
No. Oh, I'd love that. Is on my list. I have not been there yet.
Okay.
Are you?
I have no idea.
Myanmar, formerly known as Burma.
Oh, wow.
I've been there. When I went with President Obama when he went there, first time a U.S. president had been there. That country had been closed for the longest time, finally opened up. They didn't even have, those bars where you push back a plane? The little bar with the wheels, and they hook it up to the truck and they push you back as you reverse.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't have such big planes land there at their airport, so we traveled with our own tow bar.
Wow.
And so they hooked it up to their whatever truck. They pushed us back. We stopped. Then they loaded the bar into the bottom of the plane, and we took off.
And this is when Dan used to hang out on Air Force One.
That is when I used
to.
That was back in the day.
Okay.
Now I hang out in a Jeep Commander.
That's right.
So it's quite different.
In Wellesley.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, if you'd like this episode, let us know. Like us on Facebook. Use the hashtag #BehindTheMedia to engage with us on Twitter. If you have any questions or comments about getting a chip in your hand or somewhere in your body, talk to us about it. info@littlepartmedia.com. That's info@littlepartmedia.com. Okay, we're about to give you ammunition to be a rock star around the water cooler. It's time for Bites Behind the Media. Hello, everybody. I'm Dan Lothian.
And I'm Jimmy Young.
We find the interesting in media so you don't have to go searching for it. Like us on Facebook, use the hashtag #BehindTheMedia to engage with us on Twitter, and listen on iTunes and the CLNS Media Network. Today's episode is powered by Mack Weldon. It's a premium men's essentials brand. For 20% off your first order, visit MackWeldon.com and enter promo code CLNS at checkout. We're also powered by Little Part Media, where ideas come to life, producing corporate videos and podcasts to tell your story. For more, check out littlepartmedia.com or contact info@littlepartmedia.com. Okay, our first bite behind the media, Jimmy. Trump beats up on CNN again.
At 3:15 in the morning, which I just think is like bizarre.
So do you think he was up at 3:15 or was he...
scheduled tweet?
Was it a scheduled tweet?
It was a scheduled tweet. It had to be a scheduled tweet.
Or was he walking in his sleep and tweeting in his sleep? Do you think?
I think he was dreaming, actually, and he does walk in his sleep. And the question I have is, does his hair ever move when he sleeps?
I don't know. Does it move when he tweets?
I don't
This
know.
sounds like a bedtime story. Does his hair ever move when he sleeps?
Anyway,
does
he
his hair
blames-
ever move when he tweets?
Let's talk about
does
the
he
tweet,
tweet or
because-
does he sleep?
I'm so sick of him on Twitter. I'm so sick of it being a story. I'm so sick of the fact that the President of the United States communicates to his minions on Twitter.
Yes. He communicates to everybody on Twitter.
That's right.
It is sad. But here's what he said. So early in the morning, while the rest of the town was sleeping, again, feels like a Christmas carol
The
I'm
nation.
about ready. By the way, while the rest of the nation was sleeping and Santa Claus was coming down, no, he was tweeting. And he said, quote, "Funny how lowly rated CNN and others can criticize me at will, even blaming me for the current spate of bombs and ridiculously comparing me this to September 11th and the Oklahoma City bombing."
Let's talk about the
bombings that have
pipe
arrived.
bomb, yep.
The bomb, pipe bomb, not bombings, but
Right, the pipe bombs.
threats, right.
Right.
Yet when I criticize them, they go wild and scream. It's just not presidential.
Like
Amazing,
he knows
huh?
what is
Right,
presidential.
exactly.
That's the biggest issue I have
that
with
something?
this tweet.
And all of this
Can
really
he define that?
and-
If you were a
right.
reporter, will you please define what you meant by
presidential, right?
Is it a behavior? Is it how you act? Is what you say?
And haven't we talked a lot about how the rhetoric, and again, I'm not saying that what the president has said has directly led to these attempted bombings, although breaking news that apparently law enforcement has picked up a suspect in West Palm Beach. So we will probably be finding out much more about who this person is. May have no connection whatsoever to this, but you can't discount the fact that there has been a lot of hateful rhetoric directed at the left and directed at members of the media. And so
And it started by him.
He has
Sorry,
has been fueling a lot of this.
He's the fuel that drives this hatred bus. I'm sorry,
Wow.
but that's how I
This
feel.
bus. Don't need to discuss much,
Nope.
Gus. Just get on the bus.
All right.
Okay, Cannabis Wire. Jimmy?
I signed up for the newsletter today.
Oh, isn't
now
that
this
something?
Is this related to Civil, this group out of D.C.?
So Civil, which is the group that we have talked about, I believe, the
Yeah.
blockchain technology group that has been helping to fund a lot of different journalistic endeavors, apparently has had some role in funding this Cannabis Wire, which is what, Jimmy? Do you know?
It's a bunch of reporters talking about the various issues related to the cannabis industry.
Right, and it's serious stuff. It's not just smoke's flowing.
Well, not only is it serious stuff, and it's why I'm actually intrigued by signing up for the newsletter, is they are staying focused on public health before profits. So they're staying away from a lot of the recreational adult use issues that are out there and focusing on the use of cannabis as a medicinal resource, as a medicinal treatment. And it's interesting, but I will say this, I'm going to attack them.
You are.
I
Why?
am. Well, because
what did they do to you?
Because what they've done again is just, you have to do research and understand and look at the science and look at the various studies that have been done over the last, even the last few years, because as this substance becomes more mainstream, more research can be done on it. And what are the benefits of it and what are the non-benefits
Yeah, but they're
of
not
it?
researchers. They're reporters.
These guys are journalists and
they're
they are
journalists,
reporters.
right.
But, okay, so the
So why are you
founder
beating up
of
on
it,
them?
the co-founder of the site with Allison Martin, and I don't know if this, again, doesn't matter. They started looking into the various stories and what have you, but they are talking about an industry that often makes hyped claims as it grows. Well, the reason why they're making hyped claims, because it's an exciting time to
It's
learn.
new. Anything
It's
new
brand
that comes along.
Absolutely.
It's what, $6 billion now, and they say it's going to be $50 billion industry.
And he recommends, the founder of the cannabis recommends skepticism on claims of miraculous health cures and revolutionary changes with use. In legalized states, marijuana, the fact that they're using that word alone bothers me.
Oh, what do you call it? Yeah, what's the
cannabis.
name?
It's a plant called cannabis.
Or
okay?
it could be weed of wisdom.
Well,
Or ganja.
well, no, there's a million different names,
Yes.
but the one racist name is marijuana.
Right,
Okay,
yes,
it's evolving into basically an unsexy consumer product. She says. Okay, now I know it's a she.
Yeah.
Okay.
So did
It's
you
marketed
write
with
about-
testable dosages now, like alcohol percentages on beer and wine. That's not a bad comparison. Okay. More of it is edibles and oils. Okay, so absolutely, but you definitely need to educate yourself about what's going on. And it's really interesting because, are pesticides used? If they don't understand the concept of regulating an industry from seed to sale and the importance of testing the product with test labs
Yes, sir.
that are looking for pesticides.
Yes, sir.
It's
Amen,
here.
brother.
It's here in Massachusetts already.
Apparently, they signed up. 2 companies have now been licensed to do the testing.
Right.
Right.
So we're
Yes.
paving
1,
the
2,
way.
3
We're
testing.
getting closer and closer to
Yes.
launching an industry in Massachusetts that people are saying will be worth billions in a few years.
Right.
Okay.
And they're going to write about it.
What's the quality control? If they are asking rhetorically that question,
Yeah.
they're not doing their job.
Amen, brother.
Okay.
Jimmy knows.
was just
Jimmy,
saying.
Reverend Jimmy, as we like to call him. Okay, homeless media.
Yep.
I think this is interesting, right?
I'll admit
You
you're
don't
gonna
know
tell
anything.
me about this.
You don't
You're
know
gonna
anything.
tell me about this.
So you dropped the ball on the final story. You did not
Yes,
research.
'cause
Did you
I-
run out of time, or you just said, Dan?
I ran out of time because I had to set up the studio.
Oh, that's right.
Because a certain someone is a student.
Stephen, why are you a student
Yeah,
anyway?
really.
Why do you let your studies get in the way of
Right.
work?
Will you get to your degree already?
Yeah, just get your
I'm
degree.
trying.
All right. All right.
Okay. Well, anyway, Street Sense, and I'm reading here directly from an article that we pulled up. Street Sense is a nonprofit organization which employs those suffering from homelessness to tell their own stories and experiences through the selling of their newspaper. I think it's a fascinating idea because oftentimes when mainstream media, I hate to use that because it's such a loaded
Traditional
kind
is a better word.
traditional media.
I've been using traditional.
When we cover stories, we often do it from the perspective of a certain kind of narrative of homeless people, right? And we don't go beyond that. Like homeless are always the victims of something, but maybe not. Maybe this is just sort of the pass through. They're going to become stronger out of. They're great stories that can come out of the homeless community that maybe are overlooked by us because it's always when we do the stories, it's they need help, they're in trouble, they're being abused, whatever it may be.
Overlooked is a great word.
Overlooked.
They're being overlooked.
They're
It's a
being
great-
overlooked.
And by the way, when you pass a homeless person on the street,
Look him in the eye.
Aren't you overlooking?
You
For
should
the most
look them in
part?
the eye. A lot of people don't. And some homeless people say, you know what? Sometimes I just want people to look me in the eye. They don't have to give me money. Just look me in the eye. Because when you look away, you're sort of denying me the humanity
Right.
aspect.
I always try to do something or say something to them and say, look, I got no change. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
You know?
I do too.
And
I
they say,
mean,
well, I take credit cards. No.
and they pull out one of those chip readers.
right, those little Foursquare things.
Well, that's where the chip comes in, where you then just swipe your arm and you can exchange it with a homeless person. Anyway, this has been a great show. Do you have another
One
one,
more.
Jimmy?
One more fourth
Wait,
quarter
but
bite.
wait, there's more.
Can't-
It's like an infomercial.
Yeah, and I'm a sports nut and
Yes,
a
you
former
are.
sportscaster and all this.
Yes.
Fox is covering the World Series
Yes.
that involves the Boston Red Sox and the Los Angeles Dodgers.
With what's his name? Joe Buck.
Joe
No.
Buck is the
Is it Joe Buck?
announcer. Yes.
Yes.
And
yeah. I like
John
Joe Buck.
Smoltz
He's
is the
controversial,
analyst.
but I like Joe Buck.
And actually, I like Joe Buck too. A lot of people in sports do
They
not.
do not like him.
And
Yeah.
I've read his book. And if you read his book, it's a fascinating profile of what he went through being the son of a revered broadcaster,
Yes.
Jack Buck.
Jack Buck, yes.
Who I remember, and he had just an incredible set of pipes. Much better set of pipes, by the way, than Joe.
By the way, Joe Buck's sister was an anchor at a station, and my wife was her executive producer.
So that's interesting. So
in
the
St.
whole
Louis.
family is into.
Yeah, she's a TV news. Yes,
That's awesome.
Yes, exactly.
All right, so they open up the World Series with a video. And there's always, whenever there's a Super Bowl or a World Series or the Kentucky Derby or something that has history to it, okay, they usually open it up with some kind of a promotional video that is usually really well done, very well edited, tells a story.
Oh, it's good stuff. Yeah.
And with a professional movie, sometimes Monday Night Football, they
it's great
They do it
stuff.
every week, right?
Yeah.
Sunday night, the same kind of thing. They use Bill Belichick to be the voiceover.
Oh, they did?
Yes. And
For-
if you have not seen
Really?
this,
Oh, I
and
have
if
to go
you
look at
you
that.
have to go look at it
Ah, nice.
because obviously being from Boston and having, let's see, count the rings, as Bob Halloran would say.
more than you
10.
have fingers.
10.
10.
10 championships, perhaps going on 11, I might add.
Wow.
Perhaps, because they're halfway there now.
Yeah.
Anyway, that being said, but it was really well done, even though I really don't like Bill Belichick's
Yeah, neither
voice.
do I. Yeah.
But
yeah,
he
it's kind of
does,
snarky.
He definitely used his inflection properly. He
Somebody
read it
coached
like
him.
it and absolutely got coaching on
Yes,
this.
yes.
And I give Fox a lot of credit for using his
Yes.
voice because he definitely plays a huge role in the sports history of Boston and, of course, the National Football League too. Love him or hate him, and right now he's on my bad list.
Oh, he's on the bad list.
Oh, he's on my
Okay.
bad list
Okay.
because of what he did his arrogance
Okay.
with Malcolm Butler, leaving him off, not letting him play. And
Right. Yeah, that's kind of
cost them a Super Bowl.
Yes,
and I
I
still
agree.
maintain that is one of the reasons why there is a rift between Kraft, Brady,
the whole riff.
and Belichick.
Yes. That's a real nice behind the media sort of tidbit. Kind
Thank
of
you.
water cooler bites.
you'd enjoy
That's a
that.
great bite. I like that one.
I knew you would. But you
Man.
wait, you'll really like the video when you go check it
See,
out.
because that's one of those things, someone would be crawling under their bed looking for that bite. And we went and found it, dusted it off, and presented it, and now it's out there.
And we hope you don't get indigestion.
Thanks for listening and enjoying this podcast along with us. We had a lot of fun, and we know you did too. Like it, share it, keep listening on iTunes and the CLNS Media Network. For our director, Steve Helmuth, I'm Dan Lothian.
And I'm Jimmy Young.
And now you know what's behind the media.